Jimmy Kimmel returned to the airwaves just last night, proving quite categorically so, in my opinion, that right-wing consequence culture has simply not gone far enough just yet, as whilst it is now clear that elements of the lesson has sunk in through the thick skull of Jimmy Kimmel and his Disney paymasters, the point in total, self-evidently, has yet to penetrate. And so I want to talk about it. And specifically about what Jimmy Kimmel said upon his return, and in the consequences of what he said previously. And of course also in the revelation that happened just earlier yesterday, that the Biden administration had also been engaging in censorship with YouTube. So, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to ABC. Now what? That's a very good question, both long-term and short-term, as there are a lot of speculation surrounding what he would say upon his return, whether he would make an official apology, or whether or not he would simply have a pre-prepared statement from Disney in essence. Now, well, everything these late-night comedians say is of course already pre-prepared. They are scripted comedians in essence, but you get the drift. So let us begin at the beginning, shall we, with Jimmy Kimmel's return.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't...
And call me cynical, but that is some of the worst acting I've ever seen. And we will be looking at the clip where he did talk about this a second later, as no, Jimmy, you very clearly did intend to make light of the murder of this young man.
I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many...
Right, so that of course also is a lie. Simple as. It is a straight up lie. Now, if one were to be extraordinarily charitable, one might argue that the following...
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Then one might argue, if one was extraordinarily charitable, that this was a brain fart moment. One of those where you say something and you look back at the recording later and think, I didn't say that, and yet there it is. No, Jimmy, you absolutely pointed a finger. You quite explicitly said, this man was MAGA. That's what you said. Trying to lie and obfuscate about that now, I don't know whether to admire the sheer balls of lying so blatantly, or simply condemn you as an insufferable scum and piece of shit human being, honestly. As well as, too, the accusation of making political coin of this, Jimmy, as the rest of his show went on to do just that. But, okay then, the apology wasn't much of an apology. It was obfuscation at best, and straight up misleading lying at worst. Very well. With that being said then, was this a complete victory, a complete cancellation of the right wing's effort against him, if there even was such an effort, which there really wasn't. If anything, his cancellation was so quick that a backlash movement didn't really even have time to mount, really, but we'll get to that in a second. Well, it has been a partial success for Jimmy Kimmel, as ABC, of course, has brought him back, but not all of ABC's broadcasting stations have. As Sinclair Inc., for example, said, beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing as we evaluate the show's potential return. So not everyone decided to simply sweep this under the carpet, which is nice. But let's then talk about why he was suspended in the first place, right? Well, obviously enough, he was suspended for saying that the assassin was MAGA, when we know that he was not. We know that he was left-wing. This was a guy who decided to attempt to assassinate, and succeeded in doing so, a middle-of-the-road, mainstream, milquetoast conservative. For what? For what reason? Because he was filled with hate. There is only one political direction that radicalizes people to that extent. It is the left wing. He furthermore had a trans boyfriend. Another relative rarity amongst the MAGA crowd and conservatives in general. You can obfuscate and again outright lie as much as you want, Jimmy. We know he was on your side. And obviously you cannot admit to that, because that would be to find error within your own tribe. But that was the reason, because it was bringing up temperatures and because it was too obvious a lie. Certain others pointed at his ratings for the reason why, stating that ABC had simply gotten rid of a liability, and whilst his ratings haven't been amazing recently, definitely scoring on the lower end of ABC's top programming, they haven't been abysmal either, so I don't buy that in its entirety. There were also the allegations that it was the government who got rid of Jimmy Kimmel. This accusation seems to hold even less water, as what happened here was that the FCC's Brendan Carr, their leader, made comments on Jimmy Kimmel in public. Now, I've been told, quite vociferously and stridently so, for quite a few years now, that the government, not even just talking about it in public, but sending agents to the offices, sending requests and communiques directly to companies like YouTube, like Facebook, like Twitter, is not coercive in the slightest. To have FBI agents show up at Facebook's offices, sit down the leader and go, oh, you know, we, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, are very worried about this, not coercive in the slightest. And the government must be allowed to do this. Whereas now, a member of the FCC makes a comment, and suddenly, that is direct government intervention. Indeed. Now, if the FCC had indeed sent officers to ABC, to Disney, into their boardrooms and went, oh, we are very worried about this, hell, I might even agree, but this wasn't that. Although I am very happy to see that we are now in agreement that pretty much any contact with the government does bear a degree of coercion within it automatically. I'm sure that standard will not change drastically as soon as it behooves certain individuals, though. Again, especially considering recent revelations. But Jimmy Kimmel also, of course, went on to defend himself in a freedom of speech manner, that he is protected by the First Amendment. Okay? You know, there's arguments to be made there. Let's hear some of it.
And I am a tiny part of the Disney Corporation. They welcomed me back on the air, and I thank them for that. That unfortunately, and I think unjustly, this puts them at risk. The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke.
Oh, very well. I mean, it's a fair argument, isn't it? He makes others as well.
This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
free speech for all. Clearly, Jimmy Kimmel is making a principled stand here, right? He's saying that, oh, I'm not important, the show's not important, that's not it. It's free speech. It's principles that really matter here. That's why he stands in opposition to being chased off the air by the government. Oh, well, that's nice. That's very nice indeed. As, a few years ago, Jimmy Kimmel's position was this.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
Imagine that. Imagine that indeed. When it was the other side getting cancelled, Jimmy Kimmel was all for it. And this is why I'm saying that right-wing consequence culture has simply not gone far enough. As right now, Jimmy Kimmel and the left in general is thinking, oh boy, we gotta rally around the First Amendment. The free speech is important. The left has spent the last decade mocking the very concept of free speech, destroying comedy at every turn, making it virtually illegal outright. I mean, there are entire genres of comedy that no longer exists because of the left wing. So the very fact that Jimmy Kimmel now, at least a portion of his reptilian brain are going, hold on, I am not important, the show isn't important, free speech is important. If we are to so very charitably so assume that a tiny portion of his brain is ringing with a bell going, oh, principles can indeed be good, perhaps that is a lesson learned. I am not convinced by any stretch of the imagination, but at least, as I mentioned, that is an element of the point penetrating. I have never before seen so many left-wingers defend freedom of speech as after the Jimmy Kimmel cancellation. I have never before seen so many left-wingers defend the First Amendment, despite the very self-same people denouncing it in years prior. The meme I brought up in a previous video, just because you're being cancelled, that doesn't mean that anyone is infringing on your First Amendment rights. It just means that everyone thinks you're an asshole and are showing you the door. And furthermore, we already know the left has been doing this for ages. The evidence of it will simply not stop mounting. All the right is doing right now is giving them a measure, a small tiny taste of their own medicine, and they find it repugnant. And yet, this has been the only thing that the right has done that has gotten the left to defend freedom of speech. A very concept, again, that they mocked as free speeches mere years ago. It was idiotic, it was crazy, and it was only used by right-wingers because they wanted to say the N-word. That was the only reason why they held these values to be sacred at all. Literally. The only sole singular thing that has caused the left for even an instance to value freedom of speech as more than an immediate expediency is to cancel the left wing. This simply must continue, then, until the lesson has finally buried its way all the way into the center of their little craniums, to the point where they adopt free speech as a value, not merely a manufactured expediency for their immediate gain. At this point, consequence culture from the right is a fucking virtue. as it is the only effective tool we have ever had, and will in all due likelihood ever have, to hammer home this point. Jimmy Kimmel, unfortunately, has only been a partial lesson in this, and, well, we'll see as to where it goes from here, as again the question, what now? It's actually quite an interesting one. Already, stations are boycotting ABC's programming, which, whilst there is definitely going to be certainly a boost in ratings right now, due to the controversy, they're likely to, fall off rather rapidly, especially as ABC will be denied access to certain broadcasting stations. Furthermore, the cancellation campaign against Disney, it's already happened. People have already unsubscribed in large numbers, and the left wing has never, at any point, demonstrated the ability to reward a company for its actions it has only ever been able to threaten. Disney is in a position now where it has antagonized the left, lost billions, and now it will continue to antagonize the right and lose yet further billions. There is no way out of this for Disney, and that's that's the one silver lining in all of this. So, that is my reason for saying that right-wing consequence culture simply hasn't gone far enough just yet. You let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I look forward to seeing all of you again very, very soon. Till then, have a good day.